Hi everyone. You have an assignment coming up called Integrating Source Material. Today I'm going to walk you through what's asked of you in that assignment. So this is just a little lesson to get you ready to complete that assignment. Okay, so what is your objective in that upcoming assignment? Well, what you're going to do is practice different ways to take evidence from sources, right? We're finding sources that support the argument that you're making in your upcoming paper. I want you to practice 4 different ways to integrate direct quotations from your source material. You should already know at least one way. You probably have one in your back pocket, a simple way to integrate a source into a paper. But when you do it the same way all the time, it can be a little repetitious for your reader. So today we're going to practice 4 different methods of integrating source material. So I have a few tips for you before we begin. So remember that for this assignment, I want you to use an article that you're already planning to use to support your argument in your upcoming paper. So you've been doing a little light research, have your sources available. 2, remember that quotations mean that you're taking a line or a phrase word for word from that text, and you put quotation marks around it. So a direct quotation is word for word. It doesn't come from your memory. Also, remember that when you're done with your fully integrated quotation, it should feel complete. It should be a complete sentence, and you should have proper punctuation in that sentence. Okay, we've talked about this before, but let's review. There are 3 things you need when you want to weave a quotation into your writing. You always need a signal phrase. That's just a few words from you introducing these words into your essay. Otherwise, it's very jarring. If you don't have a signal phrase, we call that a dropped quote, and it can be very jarring for your reader. The second thing you need is that direct quotation taken word for word from the article. So you could just copy and paste it. That's the safest way to know that you've done it correctly and that your commas are in the right place and you spelled that person's name right. Just copy and paste it into your paper. Lastly, of course, you need a citation. We also sometimes call this source attribution. So you just need to tell where the source is from. The citation, you'll see, can happen in 2 ways. You can have it be a part of that signal phrase up front. You know, I could say, according to Lisa Moore in her article, How to Teach Writing. Okay, it could be in the signal phrase, or it can appear parenthetically, in parentheses, at the end of the sentence. Here are 2 really quick examples of what I was just showing you. So, we've got everything in green is a signal phrase. Everything in orange is a source attribution, so a citation. Everything in blue is the direct quotation. And then I also highlighted the use of the period for you so that you can see where it belongs. So in our first example, we have, according to Mark Bittman in his TED Talk titled, What's Wrong with What We Eat from 2007, quote, there's no question, none, that so-called lifestyle diseases, diabetes, heart disease, stroke, and some cancers, are diseases that are far more prevalent here than anywhere in the rest of the world. And that's the direct result of eating a Western diet. And you'll notice, because my citation comes before the quotation, I don't need it in parentheses at the end because I've already cited it, so I just end with the period and finish the quotation. It's a little different in the second one. We've got our signal phrase. The Western diet, also referred to as the standard American diet, leads to, now I've got some quotations, quote, lifestyle diseases such as, quote, diabetes, heart disease, stroke, and some cancers. And then I have my parentheses citation. So I have Bittman's name in parentheses and the period at the end. The reason why we don't have anything else in here is twofold. 1, this is from a TED Talk, which means I got it from the internet. There are no page numbers. 2, in MLA, we don't add the year in a parenthetical citation. That's APA, and you may learn that in English 102. So here are 2 examples of those 3 pieces, the signal phrase, the source attribution, and the quotation, and how that might look. Hopefully some of this looks a little familiar to you. Now I'm going to show you 4 different ways to weave those 3 pieces, the signal phrase, the quotation, and a citation, into your own writing. Okay, here we go. So the first one is just to use a single word or 2 from the quotation. So instead of taking a whole long quote, you could take just a snippet here or there. So here is an example. Even though self-driving cars can be made to be safer than human drivers, there's no way they can be created to be, quote, completely safe. And then we have a citation here. So Kurth Baker is the author, and then we have the period at the end. I will say, this isn't the best quotation. When you quote something, you really want it to be really singular. You really want that phrase to really wow them and be something you couldn't just simply paraphrase. So this is a decent example, but I think there are probably better ones out there. Okay, the second type is to write a sentence using half your own words and half the words from the source to create one full sentence. So it's going to be real seamless, okay? So here's our example using the John Cena PSA that we spent so much time with. John Cena argues that to have pride in America, one must love all Americans. So do you feel how there's no pause there? It's just seamlessly my words blending into his words. And then we have our citation. You'll notice that in this citation, it's the title of the piece because we don't actually have an author. Like, yes, we have John Cena in the video, but he's not the author of the article, So we're citing the title of the piece, and then we put the period at the end. That is as opposed to the one we just looked at where we had the author's name in the parentheses. Okay, let's look at C. Write a sentence using a colon to introduce or interpret a full sentence quotation. Okay, here's the thing about colons. Colons are the equal sign of the English language. So if you're one of the students out there who are pretty mathy, you know that things on either side of an equal sign need to balance, right? They need to be equal. Here, anything on either side, anything at least on the front side of a colon has to be a complete sentence. It has to be an independent clause, so it could stand alone. Subject, predicate can stand alone. Let's take a look. Cena recites statistics about the demographics of America in 2016. So do you see how before the colon, that's a complete sentence? But now we have the equal sign saying, let me tell you about that. And now we have the quotation. 9 million Americans are LGBT, more than the number of people living in Virginia. And then we have our citation, and again, the period comes at the end. So you notice that maybe when you use this phrase, maybe you say LGBTQ+. But that's not what John Cena said, so we're going to take his direct quotation. Last one. Write a sentence using a signal phrase with the source's name, qualifications, and appropriate present tense verb. So what that really means is just to write a really good signal phrase, okay? So let's take a look at the example. In the 2016 PSA, Love Has No Labels, John Cena shares that, quote, 3.5 million Americans are Muslim, triple the amount of people serving the U.S. military. So you notice I don't have parentheses at the end of this one because I did a great citation in my signal phrase. I've got the year, I've got what type of source it is, I've got the title of it, and then I have my speaker's name, which is John Cena. And then here's my little verb, shares. So when you're quoting, there could be lots of different verbs. It could be John Cena shares, John Cena argues, John Cena said, John Cena writes, John Cena contends. So we're thinking about all the interesting verbs you could use there. Okay, it is your turn. Let's take a look at the assignment. So it is directly what I just showed you. For your first one, give me one sentence where you're quoting from one of your sources, where you're using a single word or two from the source. B, use half your words and half from a source to create one full sentence. C, use a colon to introduce and or interpret a full quotation. And D, use a signal phrase with the source's name, qualifications, and appropriate present tense verb. So currently, this assignment does not say, like, yes, you have to have a citation, but just remember, you always have to have all three. A few words from yourself, the actual quotation, and your source attribution, which can either be a part of the signal phrase or the citation at the end. Okay, I think you're ready. Go take a crack at it, and I'm sure y'all will do great. If you have any questions, just reach out to your instructor for help.